why people are just mad at me because I got to have sex with one handicapped girl. One, it was one handicapped bitch.
Child stars growing up to be train wrecks is sadly not a rare sight, but in recent memory, none have been quite as big of a holy jeez, what the hell is going on over there? I mean, stop your car in traffic, the rubberneck type of train wreck, quite like Orlando Brown. Over the years, Orlando Brown has taken public L after L and was recently arrested for domestic abuse charges against his own brother, with whom he, being Orlando, was living with because he was homeless. How did he manage to get to this point? Well, in today's video, we'll go through his entire career, all of his antics, and discuss what has led him down the path that he finds himself on now. I'm Nate the Great from TakeFlight214.com, and this is the dark side of entertainment, the Orlando Brown story. But before we get started, stop for a second and hit that like and subscribe button for me. We're trying to hit 3,000 mark before the end of the year, and liking and sharing the video helps the YouTube algorithm to notice us and not do us dirty like they always seem to do. But with that being said, let's get into it. Orlando Brown was born in 1987, but his acting career began in 1995 when he appeared in Major Payne as the young cadet Tiger. In 1996, he was cast as 3J in Family Matters. He also began voice acting in '96 when he starred as a childhood version of Damon Wayans in the show Waynehead. He would get a lot of work at a very young age. He went on to take roles as Sticky Webb in The Proud Family and Cornelius Fillmore in the show Fillmore. But his biggest role, perhaps, was as Eddie Thomas in That's So Raven. That's So Raven was a wildly successful show created by Disney featuring another child star, Raven-Symoné, who had most popular been known for her roles prior to that on The Cosby Show, and she was just as prolific at a young age as Orlando was. That's So Raven aired for the first time in 2003. The series centered around Raven Baxter, a teenager with hidden psychic abilities. Raven often misinterpreted the events she foresaw and intervened to try and prevent the vision from coming true or to protect her friends and her family. The show was a hit amongst kids in the early 2000s, and Orlando played a key role as Raven's rapping, athletic, cool kid wannabe friend. All was going well for Orlando until one day in 2007, he was pulled over for driving with his lights off. And during the search of the car, cops found some gas in his passenger side door. Legally, he got off with the typical penalty for being busted with such things, but the law was the least of his worries. He went on to make the customary statement about how he had never touched the stuff, and considering he was a quote-unquote child activist, but Disney being an outwardly squeaky clean brand they pretended to be in the early 2000s was having nothing of it. They cut him from the show and never worked with him again. Not wanting to let himself get down, he decided to try his hand at rapping. After all, he had been dabbling with rap for a number of years and saw this as an opportunity to change lanes with Young Star Entertainment. Needless to say, and unfortunately for Orlando, this didn't work out. He had a song named Peter Pan, which was an attempt to capitalize on the dance-crazed state of rap in those days, but nothing ever really caught on. The weed in the car thing could have been simply chalked up to him making a careless mistake. Not having weed in the car, but being dumb enough to drive with the lights off with it in the car. However, in 2011, things got worse, and he was popped for his very first DUI. Again, Orlando basically got himself arrested when he was pulled over in Hollywood for driving without a license plate. Come on now, bro. The cops suspected he was drunk and forced him to do a field sobriety test, which of course he failed. Now it's important to note though that prior to 2012 or so, Orlando still seemed pretty normal in his interviews.
I remember when I couldn't have none of this stuff. You know what I mean? So to save up and to be able to have and go in and say, you know what, I want that for myself.
But in 2012, you could begin to see a change in his personality and his mental state.
What happens is when you're young and you're a child star, whatever, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, so, you know, no one's going to believe it right now. My music, I'll stop it because of the Disney thing and everything. But, you know, the fans know I've been trying for years.
Soon after, he was sentenced to 180 days in jail for failure to pay his DUI fines and failing to complete his court-remanded classes for public drunkenness. But when he got out of jail, though, Nutbag Orlando began to take form. Soon after release, video footage turned up of Orlando standing outside a 40-year-old woman's apartment, yelling obscenities at her and threatening her life and the life of her family. So, how the hell did this transpire, you might be wondering? Well, the woman's side of the story is Orlando and her were acquaintances, and one day he decided to try to shoot his shot. She said that she turned him down and he became irate. Orlando's side of the story was that the woman was stalking him and he simply went to her apartment just so he can explain to her boyfriend that nothing was going on between them, which off top sounds silly. I mean, if she was stalking you, my dude, why would you go to her apartment to tell her boyfriend anything? How would you even know where she lived? There's too many holes in the story for me. You choose who to believe on this, but either way, he managed to get a few gigs in indie films, which will put a bit of money in his pocket. But in 2015, he continued to spiral down this weird road of insanity. During a reunion of That's So Raven show on The View, he exposed that he and Raven Simone used to date in the past. Raven denied it at the time, and the segment was ultimately cut out of the show that aired. But this would mark the beginning of the Raven saga, if you will. A further descent into madness for Orlando. Not to mention, he had gotten a poorly drawn tattoo of the 4 stars from the show on his hand, but bookmark that because things will get weirder. Orlando would later go on to DJ Vlad and brag about how he had performed cunnilingus on Raven back in the day.
I ate her.
Okay, that's what the...
I had the num cakes.
By now, Orlando was a full-on character in interviews, so some thought that he may have been joking. But nonetheless, he wouldn't be asked to join back up for the team of That's So Raven in the reboot. Could this be because of his recent comments about Raven Simone? Or the fact that Disney still didn't F with him because of the weed thing in the past? Either way, he was left out in the cold. And in 2016, he was arrested for beating up his girlfriend, and when they made it to the station, the cops found meth on his person, a usable amount. It was then that the onslaught of wacky Orlando Brown videos began to hit the web. He would appear all whacked out of it, and considering what he had been arrested with, this will probably explain his behavior, in my opinion. He had began to physically look different too. In his That's So Raven days, many would describe his physique as chubby. But over the years, he had began to look thinner and thinner. And my guess is his secret was the crackhead diet. 2 years after that, in January of 2018, Brown was arrested again in Barstow, California this time, for allegedly having a verbal argument in an apartment with his girlfriend and his girlfriend's mom. The charges he was facing this time were battery against a spouse, resisting a peace officer, and possession of, again, a controlled substance. Considering the public appetite for a good train wreck, his erratic behavior would gain him even more attention, and he would do even more interviews, making himself look worse and worse. Raven Simone would continue to do her best to try to ignore the antics of Orlando, but none of this stopped him from his insane breakneck slide down the road to Crazy Town. In an extreme stalker type way, Orlando got a tattoo of Raven Simone in the state that she looked on the show, huge as shit, right on his chest. I mean, come on now, fam. This is sad. But I continue. Brown's string of run-ins with law enforcement would get longer in June of 2018. He was seen by police arriving and departing from a Las Vegas motel known for its guests' nefarious activities, such as prostitution and drugs. So it was a trap house. Basically, he got spotted leaving the trap house. When the cops stopped the cab that he was in, he would wind up arrested again for, you guessed it, felony narcotics possession and misdemeanor charges of drug paraphernalia mixed in with a side order of resisting arrest. 2018 was a busy year for Orlando, and in September, he was nabbed for burglary in a Las Vegas restaurant. Brown was noticed on camera changing the locks at a place called Legends Restaurant and Venue, which was owned by a friend of his, which is a classic dope fiend move, by the way. Brown's erratic, law-breaking behavior began to worry his friends, so they staged an intervention for him. Orlando went into rehab, but it clearly didn't work out entirely as planned. Brown reportedly stayed for only 1 week before leaving and going out and taking another public L. A video surfaced showing Orlando walking down the street barefoot and appearing to be holding a box of wine while a man follows him with a camera threatening to give him the hands if he came back on his property again.
I'm away. I'm off your property.
If you come back over, I'm gonna knock you the fuck out.
I'm off your property.
So looking to further help, some people close to Orlando got him on the Dr. Phil show. He appeared wearing a strange looking set of snake eye contacts, claiming that he was 4 years sober, which I have to say, I don't buy, not for 1 second. I mean, he looked high or drunk there in the interview.
Still in the belly. Still in the belly, we don't know yet.
Okay. You said the 2-year-old don't know the name because it's still in the belly.
That's because I have a baby on the way as well. I just mentioned
So
that.
a 2-year-old is still in the belly, so that means that that child has been in there for 2 years.
Not necessarily.
Before about a year or so, he seemed to be doing better. He had gained some weight back and started dabbling in music again. But sadly, this wouldn't be how the story ended. Video surfaced again of him looking terrible after being beaten up by somebody and making wild accusations about being Michael Jackson's long-lost son. He was seesawed back and forth, and later on, another video he came out with claimed that he was cleaning up his act and had found religion. He even went on a no jumper and tried to play dumb and act like he never had a drug problem.
How long you been in recovery for?
Recovery for
Drugs or alcohol?
haven't been in.
Oh, so you don't fuck with that at all? I was kind of the impression that.
Oh yeah, nah, bro.
But like, get real, bro. I mean, you've been in more trap houses than Young Jeezy, and you've been busted with meth countless times. Not to mention all of the videos of you out here looking bad in these streets, so don't give me that. But since then though, he was doing pretty well for a while until the recent news of another arrest for domestic abuse came out. Seems like he's on another low because the man he was arrested for assaulting was his brother, who says that Orlando was homeless at the time and he was just trying to help him out. The life of Orlando Brown continues to be a roller coaster. 1 minute he seems to be doing better and the next he's totally out of there again. It begs the question, why do so many child stars wind up doing so bad later on in life? I think it has a lot to do with gaining so much fame and money at such a young age. You can't expect kids to be able to deal with that in the healthiest of ways. Another speculation, possibly he fell victim to some of the dark stories that we've heard of child predators in Hollywood. And though I've saw no evidence that might suggest that, it can't be totally ruled out either. But at the end of the day, we've seen this story before. Person spirals out of control down a road that only really has 2 destinations. Either a come to Jesus moment where the person hits rock bottom and decides no more, or tragically, they flame out, if you know what I mean. And you hope that the latter is not the case and Orlando can manage to get himself together for good before it's too late. But what do you think? Hit us up in the comment section and let us know. Also, if you made it this far, then clearly you liked the video. So how about you smash the like button for us? Liking and sharing the video is the best way to help us to continue to grow as a channel. Also, if you want to be updated every time we drop a new video, then hit the subscribe button and then the notification bell. This way you'll be dinged each time a new episode drops. But with that being said, I'm Nate the Great from TakeFlight214.com signing out. Until next time, peace.